Hi, Shyla. Let's take a look at long division with decimals and see if we can help you out with the two problems that you asked about. We'll do the second one first because it's easier. It's easier to handle because it has a nice clean answer when we're finished. So if we take a look at this, hopefully the first thing that you're noticing is that there is a decimal in the divisor that we want to get rid of. So how do I get rid of it? I'm going to pause for just a moment and let you answer. How do I get rid of this decimal? Shyla, I hope you said we're going to slide it to the right one and make that a 3.2 into a 32. So now the decimal moved from here to here. I don't need to show it because it's just the number 32 now. But what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. I slid the decimal one spot, so what happens to this decimal? Did you say slide one spot? I hope so. Do we slide it this way? Do we slide it this way? Yep. And I can move this straight up because we're done sliding decimals. And this is what we did was set up the problem to solve. And now it's set up. I don't need a comma here, but just so you can see, we're looking at 3,083.2 divided by 32. This will now let us solve our problem. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this comma just so it's not a visual distraction. So now that we're looking at this, we're going to look, does 32 go into 3? No. Nope. So there's going to be nothing above the 3. If I add the 0 with it and make this a 30, does 32 go into 30? No, it doesn't because it is 30 is too small. If we combine the 8 and make this 308, will 32 go into 308? Yes, it does. Now, we talked before about you probably don't know your 32 facts very well. Counting by 32s. I know I don't, and I'm a math teacher. But what we can do to figure out about how many times does 32 go into 308, do you remember when we talked about guess and check? Guess and check is the process that'll help us get close to the correct number for up here. Now, we're not going to just guess any number. I'm not going to just say, oh, let's try to guess 5 and see if that works. No, we're going, well, you could. Shyla, you could guess any number, put it up here, and see if it works. However, that's going to give you a lot more work to do. Instead, we're going to try to make an educated guess. If I'm looking at 32 into 308, 32 is close to what 10? A number that I can reach by counting by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Oh, 30. 32 is close to 30. So I am going to round 32 down to 30. So if I rounded down, I'm going to take my 308 and also round that down to the nearest 10, something that I can reach by counting by tens. 300. I know that 308 is closest to 310, but then that would be rounding up. If I rounded down, I want to round this down. And this will give us a basis to start our guess. Well, 330 will go into 300 10 times. Okay, because 10 times 30 is 300. The problem is this number is too big. I can't put a 10 up there. It has to be a single digit. And technically, if we multiply 32 times 10, we're going to get 320. And 320 is too big. So we know that 10 won't work. So my guess is going to be the closest thing to 10 that's a single digit, which is 9. Because my guess is going to be a 9, I'm now going to get rid of this. The purpose of this was just to find out what number am I going to guess. So there was my guess, and here's my check. I'm going to do 9 times 2, 18. 9 times 3, 27, plus 1, 28. I multiply by my number, by the divisor. And I'll subtract. 8 minus 8, 0. 0 minus 8, well, I can't do that. I'm going to have to borrow from the 3, make it a 2. Bring 10 of those over, so now it's 10 minus 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. 308 minus 288 is 20. Now I need to see, is this 20 smaller than my divisor? It is. It is, so I know my 9 is good. Bloop, 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 bloop. I have to bring down my 3 so I can continue the problem. Now I have to figure out what number goes up here. 32 goes into 203 how many times? Well, let's guess and check. Do you remember how I'm going to guess? 32 is close to 30, and I rounded down. 203 rounded down is 200. All I need to do is try to figure out. I take a look. Does my 3 go into 2? No. Does my 3 go into 20? Yep, it goes in about 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. I don't actually even need to finish this. This is my guess. That's my educated guess. I don't really care what the rest of this division problem is. All I wanted to do is get a number that might be close. Instead of totally randomly guessing, saying, well, does 3 work? Does 8 work? Does 5 work? What might work? This is just an educated guess that says 6 might be really close. We'll find out. I'm done with all of this because I've got my 6 up here. The kids ran off with my good eraser, so I have this little eraser, and it's not very effective. Okay, now we're going to see how good this guess is. I'm going to multiply 6 times 32. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. I'm going to subtract that. 3 minus 2 is 1. 0 minus 9, I can't do that. I've got to borrow 1 from over here, and 10 moves over here, so I have 10 minus 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. I need to check. Is 11 smaller than my divisor of 32? Yep. So 6 was a good guess. It's a good choice. All right, but I'm not done yet. I need to bring down bloop, 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 my next number. 32 goes into 112 about how many times? I need a guess. I'm going to use my educated guess. I'm going to round this down to 30, and I'm going to round 112 down to 110. Well, all I really need to look at is my 3 and my 11. 3 goes into 11 how many times? 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 would be 12. 12 would be too big. So 3 is going to be my guess. That's what I'm going to guess. And now I'll find out if that's a good guess or not. Hopefully you're not erasing all of this yourself. Maybe you just use a scrap sheet of paper. Something to kind of do your work on so that you can guess. All right. I'm going to see how close my 3 is. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. I can't take 6 away from 2. So I'm going to borrow, make that a 0, make that a 12. 12 minus 6 is 6. Now here's a 0. I can't take 9 from 0, but I can borrow from that. It makes that a 0. It makes that a 1. So it's a 10. 10 minus 9 is 1. My answer is 16. Is 16 smaller than 32? It is. So my 3 was a good guess. But uh-oh, I have a remainder. We talked about what can we do to extend the problem to avoid having a remainder. And that is add a 0. I'm going to add a 0 and bloop, 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 bring that on down and continue the problem. So now I needed a guess. How many times does 32 go into 160? Well, I'm going to round 32 down to 30. And 160 rounded down is 160. All right, that made it easy. I'm looking at 3 into 16. 3 goes into 16 5 times. That's all I'm going to do with that. It gives me a starting point. It gives me a guess number. I'm going to guess 5. Because 3 goes into 16 5 times, so we're going to see how this works. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Subtract. My answer is 0. There is no remainder. I am done with the problem. The answer is 96.35 or 96 35/100ths. This guess and check is probably the hardest part. It's the hardest part because our multiple digit divisors, we don't know those math facts very well. So what we're doing is we're guessing. We're guessing to see if we can come close. And so far, our guesses all worked out to make this problem as simple as possible. But simple as possible doesn't mean it's simple. It isn't. I wouldn't say this is easy. I wouldn't call this easy. but it's doable if you follow the correct pattern. If you remember the pattern that you need to do the decimal slide and how to do a multiple digit division problem. So it's not simple. It's not easy. We're just finding an easy way to make the problem work. So I don't want you to think when I say that we're making the problem easy, it's not making it easy, but it's making it easy within the context of what the problem is. The next problem you asked about, 591 divided by 6.57, or 6 and 57 hundredths. This is not a very nice problem. This is not a problem I would have given you in class. Just because I wouldn't give this to you as a 5th level student doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's doable using guess and check. It's doable doing the decimal slide. Just as I've said before that this is not an easy problem, we're going to make it as easy as possible. We're going to make it easy by getting rid of the decimal in the divisor. That decimal in the divisor would cause us a problem because I don't know my 6 and 57 hundredths facts. I can't count by 6 and 57 hundredths. I really can't. So, on your own, see if you can figure out how to get rid of this decimal. Did you say a decimal slide? I hope so. If we need to slide this decimal out of the problem, we're going to bloop, bloop, move it 2 places. And then this becomes 657. But if I slid the decimal 2 places to the right, I have to do the same thing over here. I have to slide the decimal 2 places to the right. Are you saying, I don't see a decimal? Well, that's true because the decimal lives here even though we don't show it. It lives here in the number 591. Because it lives here, even though we can't see it, we still can slide it 2 places by adding a 0, so it slides once, and another 0, so it slides again. I am going to put my decimal straight up here in the answer because we are done with the decimal slide. Now we have another ugly looking problem. The problem is now written as 59,100 divided by 657. Ugh. Okay, remember our guess and check? We are really going to be doing some guessing and some checking. And we're going to simplify this as much as possible, understanding simplifying doesn't mean it's easy. Because our divisor is in the hundreds, I'm going to round it to the nearest 100. If I count by hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, what 100 is this closest to? 700. Will 657 go into 5? No. Will 657 go into 59? No. Will 657 go into 591? No. Will 657 go into 5,910? Yes. So this is where my guess number is going to go. My guess number is going to go right up here. Now, to figure out what my guess number is going to be, if I rounded this 100 to the nearest, up to the nearest 100, what is 5,910 rounded up to the nearest 100? Well, if you round it to the nearest 100, sorry, it's not rounding to the nearest 100, it's rounding up. So our 9 becomes a 10, which means we add a 1 over here, and this becomes 6,000. 6,000. So to figure out what our guess is, does 7 go into 6? No. Does 7 go into 60? It does. About how many times? Well, let's see. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 9 is 63. 63 is too much, so 8. 7 times 8 is 56. 56 would be the closest. I'm not really worried about solving it. I was just trying to figure out a number to guess to start with. So we're going to do that. We're going to put the 8 up here, and now multiply 8 times 657. 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 5 is 45. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 4, 51, 52. Now we have a big subtraction problem. Can I take 6 from 0? No. I've got to turn that into a 0, move it over so it's a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. Can I do 0 minus 5? No. This 9 becomes an 8. That becomes a 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 8 minus 2 is 6. 5 minus 5 is 0. So my answer here has to be smaller than the divisor. Is it? Yes, it is. It's close, but it is smaller. So this process that gave me the 8 gave me a correct number to guess. We guessed, and our check was correct. So the next thing we do, bloop, 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 drop that down. And we're back to another ugly guess and check problem. Remember what we rounded this to? If we rounded it to the nearest 100, it went up to 700. So we're going to take this and round it up to the nearest 100. That would be a 6,600. Do we see how this 500 rounded up is going to be 600? Okay. That's all I'm worried about right now. Well, sorry, it's actually a 6,000. We don't need to worry about it. We're looking at the 7. Does 7 go into 6? No. Does 7 go into 60? Yes. 7 goes into 60 about how many times? Well, 7 times 9 is 63. 9 is too big. 8. That's 56. That would be okay. So we have another guess of 8. Okay? Doesn't mean it's right, but it means that it's a good guess. So if I guess 8, And I do the math. Well, if you notice, I've already done the math once. Okay, I've already multiplied this times 8. So I'm going to, so 8 times 7, we got the 6, 5, 2, 5. Let's subtract. Can't take 0 minus 6, but I can change that to a 3. Make that a 10. 10 minus 6 is 4. 3 minus 5, I can't do that, but I can borrow from over here. Make that a 13. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. 4 minus 2 is 2. 6 minus 5 is 1. Is my answer 1,284 less than the divisor? No, it's not. This is one time where our guess of 8 is off. Our guess of 8 didn't work. So, because this number, this answer is too big, it's too big because this multiplied answer is not big enough. And if this number is not big enough to make the subtraction smaller than that, then this needs to increase. It needs to go bigger. We need to make it bigger by 1. So we're going to redo this step. We're going to change the 8 to a 9. We're going to erase this mess down here, and we're going to go again. So now I'm back to this step. I'm not going to guess again. I'm not going to do any more rounding because I did that. My guess told me to try an 8. The 8 didn't work, so I've changed it to a 9. Now this one will work. I feel very comfortable that 9 will work. Let's take 9 times 7, 63. 9 times 5 is 45, plus the 6, 51. 9 times 6 is 54, plus 5, 59. Let's subtract that. 4, 3, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7. 3 minus 1 is 2. Can't do that. 5, 15 minus 9, 6, 0. Is 627 less than 657? It is. So my guess of 9 worked. But I'm not done. I don't want this as a remainder. Remainder of 627? Bleh. I might not have an even answer like the first one we did. And we'll have to extend it a little bit and see how far we need to go. So in order to extend this problem, I need to add a 0, bloop, 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 and bring that down. Now we're back to guessing and checking. That still rounds to 700. Because I rounded up the hundreds, this rounds up to 6,300. 6,300. I'm only really looking at my 7 and 63. 7 goes into 63 9 times. I'm not going to do any more of my problem. I have my guess. My guess is going to be a 9. Because 9 was the answer to my guess, that is my educated guess where I'm going to start the next part of this problem. 9 times 7. Well, actually, we already just did that 9 multiplication. We did that up here. So the answer is going to be the same. 63, and a 1, 9, and a 5. I can't take 0 minus 3, so I'm going to borrow, make that a 6, bring that 1 over. 10 minus 3, 10, 9, 8, 7. 6 minus 1 is 5. I can't take 2 minus 19, so I can borrow, make that a 5, and this is a 12. 12 minus 9 is 3. Is 357 less than 657? It is. So my 9 up here is good. So far, so good, except I still have a remainder. I need to extend my problem by adding another 0. Bloop, 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 bringing all that down. Whew. All right, hopefully it ends soon. I'm back to guessing and checking. Round that up to 700. This 100 rounds up to 3,600. 3,600. I'm only looking at my 7 and my 36. Seven goes into 36 about... No. 7 goes into 36 about 5 times. Because 7 times 5 is 35. It gets us the closest. So I don't need to do any more. I've got my 5. I'll plug my 5 in up here. And then I'll multiply. 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 5 is 25. Plus 3, 28. 5 times 6 is 30. Plus 2 is 32. Subtract. 6, 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 6 minus 8 I can't do, so I'll have to borrow. 16 minus 8 is 8. 4 minus 2 is 2. 3 minus 3 is nothing. Is 283 less than 657? Yes. So our 5 worked. Our 5 guess worked. But I still have a remainder. This could be one of those problems that we can extend the zeros on forever and maybe not get an error. Sorry, I'm reading a message that says my recording size has exceeded my limit, so I don't know what's going to happen here. Anyways, we have to find a way to stop. If you remember, I said instead of going on forever, we would round to the nearest hundredth. We'd round our answer to the nearest hundredth. But in order to find out what this 5 rounds to, I need to go to the thousandth spot. I need to go one more so I know what this 5 does. So I'm going to add a 0, bloop, 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 bloop it on down, and do it again. Because I don't know if I'm still recording, I've skipped to the end. I found that 4 works. 4 times 657 ends up with 2,623, which when I subtract is 222. 222 is less than my 654, so I know that my 4 is good. Now, we're done with the math. We just have to round. Our 4 tells our 5 what to do. If you remember, consult the chart. Our 4 tells our 5 to stay the same. So since our 5 stays the same, the answer is 89.95. Our 5 stays the same. We're done. We've ended. And that's the answer. Please keep in mind, I don't expect this to be easy for 5th level. This is the problem that was given for you to work on. I wouldn't give you this in class. This is something that eventually you'll be able to know how to do. And if these steps make sense, it's something that you can do right now. But as far as being easy, being simple, no, Shyla, this isn't. It just isn't. Um, but that's how to do it. So let me know. I went through step by step. Do the steps make sense? This, guessing and checking, especially when you have 3 digits, is something different. It's something very different. And it's an attempt to try to help us come up with our answer as easily as possible, even though it's not easy. The easiest way is to use a calculator. But since we're not using the calculator and we're finding out how to do the decimal slides, guess and check with our long division, if you practice this and really feel comfortable with it, when you move on to higher levels, none of this math will seem scary at all because it all follows that same steps, the same pattern, the same process. Hopefully this was helpful. Um, Let me know if it was helpful or if I've confused you even more. Uh, we'll see you sometime during a Zoom meeting this week, and let us know if you have any more questions. Bye, Shyla.